When I was 7 years old, I followed my father's words, changed into my elder brother the Crown Prince's clothes, and lured the rebels away alone, only to be abducted to the enemy camp for 8 years. By the time my elder brother the Crown Prince found me, I had been so brutally tortured by the rebels that I was left in a dazed and foolish state, to cure my illness. My elder brother the Crown Prince crawled on his knees up 999 steps to pray for a blessing of peace for me, to marry me as his wife. He stabbed himself 18 times in public to force the 100 officials to agree, but on the day of my wedding, my sister held a knife to her own neck. Her eyes red as she asked the Crown Prince, "Do you want her, or me? If you choose her, tomorrow I will marry into the Prince of Chi's residence. From now on, you can cherish your Crown Princess, and I will be the princess consort. Our love ends here, and we shall never meet again, not even in the next life." The Crown Prince hesitated, but I stepped forward, took my sister's hand, and said to her, "Sister, smile. You look beautiful when you smile." Elder sister flung my hand away, her eyes icy cold. "You're filthy. Don't touch me." I lowered my head, feeling wronged. I couldn't understand why my sister, who used to love holding me and calling me little dumpling, had suddenly become so harsh, so I turned to look at mother beside me, only to see her eyes reddened as well, a flicker of restraint in her gaze. Yet she spoke with the same tone of disgust. "Ju Tong, why did I ever give birth to a debt collector like you? I don't know what kind of ghost a debt collector is, but I don't want to be a ghost." I wanted to step forward and hug mother, but father stopped me. He said, "Tong Tong, a married daughter is like spilled water from now on. You have no connection to our general's manor. Don't come back anymore." I could hear the tremor in father's voice and shook my head desperately, stammering, "Father, please, don't drive me away. I won't go." But father acted as if he couldn't hear my pleas at all. He directly placed the red bridal veil over my head, pushed me firmly into the Crown Prince's arms, and said through gritted teeth, "Go, just go." I cried the entire way. Along the journey, the Crown Prince lifted the curtain of my sedan chair and comforted me in a voice that was restrained yet gentle. "Tong Tong, don't cry. From now on, I will be your only family." That year, I was 15, and because of those words, I believed in him for 10 years. It wasn't until 3 years later that news came from outside that my family had been raided. A maid from the Eastern Palace told me that because the Prince of Chi had plotted a rebellion, my family was also implicated. I didn't understand the meaning of rebellion or implication, but I knew that my father and mother had been thrown into a pitch-dark prison, and my sister had suffered a miscarriage due to the shock, her fate unknown. I begged the Crown Prince to take me to see my father and mother, but he coldly refused. "Tong Tong, from the day you married, they publicly declared they no longer have you as a daughter. They are heartless and ungrateful. So why are you so persistent in maintaining this relationship?" For 3 years, the Crown Prince taught me to read and write. He was my only teacher. I have always followed his words, only this time, I did not obey. "I want to see them." Seeing my persistence, Crown Prince brother stopped insisting. He said to me expressionlessly, "I'll let you see them. But after this meeting, you should realize that only I truly love you. They also truly deserve to die." After saying that, he had someone prepare a carriage and horses for me. The carriage was fully padded with soft cushions. My personal maid, Xiaoju, picked up a piece of my favorite peach blossom pastry from the snack box and said with envy in her eyes, "Crown Princess, the Crown Prince truly treats you well, all these years. Whenever you have nightmares, he sets aside all his official duties to stay by your side. Despite his high status, he remains pure and devoted. There are no other women around him besides you. Even if you casually mention a craving, no matter how late it is, he personally goes to buy the pastries you love." But your elder sister not only disrupted the ceremony on your wedding day but also went around telling people after your marriage that she doesn't have a sister like you, And your parents? They only love your elder sister, giving her the best of everything. When you got married, they only prepared 2 chests of dowry, but when your elder sister married, she had a full 18 chests. I nodded, neither reaching for the pastry nor speaking. Everyone said that the Crown Prince married me out of gratitude, but all these years, whenever my parents spoke ill of me outside, the Crown Prince would order people to set up porridge kitchens in the city under my name and make donations to the Guardian Temple. Every time my elder sister competed with me, more valuable items would appear in my room. Xiao Ju told me that this was the Crown Prince standing up for me, slapping my maternal family in the face, and advised me to accept the Crown Prince's kindness with peace of mind. But I always felt that something wasn't quite right. Even when I saw the dazzling jewelry, I couldn't muster any interest. When I entered the prison cell, at first glance, I saw my once tall and imposing general father holding my mother tightly in a corner. They were covered in filth, mixed with blood. And the murky air was thick with the smell of blood. I hate this smell. During the 8 years I was held as a prisoner of war by the enemy, I endured all kinds of torture. The only thought that kept me alive was the desire to return home. I looked at my father, opened my mouth, but couldn't make a sound at that moment. My mother, who was being held in my father's arms, noticed me. Her bloodshot eyes glared fiercely at me, her voice hoarse and unpleasant. "Has the Crown Princess come to mock our family?" I shook my head, not understanding why my mother would ask such a thing. I didn't know how to respond. On the way, Xiao Ju and I had imagined what should happen. She said that my father and mother would surely beg me to spare their lives because I was favored in the Eastern Palace, and ask me to plead with the Crown Prince to release them from prison. I never expected my mother would curse me. "Now you must be glad it was you, not your sister, who married into the Eastern Palace. But with your foolishness, do you really think you can hold on to the position of Crown Princess? Perhaps in a couple of years, when the Crown Prince takes a concubine, your fate will be even worse than ours." I felt a pang of sadness from my mother's words, and after thinking for a long time, I could only mutter, "He wouldn't, my brother, the Crown Prince, wouldn't treat me like that. He said he would be my family for life." But my mother let out a bitter laugh. "You've been married to the Crown Prince for so many years, yet there's been no sign of a child. Your sister has already given birth to 3. It's quite obvious whether he loves you or not." I understood this statement, because the Empress has also told me to have a child with the Crown Prince as soon as possible. But every time I ask the Crown Prince when he will have a child with me, he always evades the question with a smile, saying there's no hurry. Sometimes he would even say that he doesn't like children. Before I could tell Mother that the Crown Prince doesn't want children because he dislikes them, the next second, Mother suddenly grabbed a stone from the ground and accurately threw it at my head through the bars. My delicate forehead immediately had a bloody gash. Blood trickled down my cheek, staining the new jacket that the Crown Prince had just made for me. I seemed to feel no pain, standing there in a daze. My heart felt as if it were being tightly squeezed by a pair of large hands, leaving me breathless and suffocated. Beside me, Xiaoju let out a piercing scream. "You lunatic! How dare you harm the Crown Princess? The Crown Prince will never let you get away with this." Mother curled her lips into a smile. "That's for the best. Give us a quick end." Father remained silent the entire time. It wasn't until I was being led away by Xiao Ju that he slowly shifted, pulling a packet of malt candy from his pocket. I remember 8 years ago, Father promised me that if I completed the task, he would buy me a whole packet of malt candy as a reward. Just as I was about to reach out to take it, Xiao Ju knocked the malt candy out of Father's hand. The malt candy shattered all over the ground instantly. Xiao Ju said with a serious expression, "Still trying to harm the Crown Princess. This is adding crime to crime." Before I could open my mouth to defend Father, I was forcibly pulled back to the Eastern Palace by Xiao Ju to have my wounds treated. Before it was even dark, Crown Prince brother returned from the palace. Seeing the wound on my forehead, he clenched his fists, a flash of hatred flickering in his eyes. He called Xiao Ju into the courtyard, and through the window, I saw her animatedly describing everything that had happened in the prison that day. Before Xiao Ju could finish speaking, Crown Prince brother returned to the room. His eyes were wild, tinged with a hint of displeasure. Before I could speak, the Crown Prince brother kissed my cold lips. He pressed me down on the bed and removed the bed curtains. For 3 whole days, he did not attend the morning court session and did not allow me to play in the courtyard. When he finally allowed me to go outside to bask in the sun on the 4th day, I learned that my parents had died. According to Xiao Ju, they were torn apart by 5 horses and bled to death. They were not buried. Even the 3 children my sister gave birth to were exiled together, and one of them, due to frailty, died on the way to exile. The body was left as food for wild wolves. I want to cry, but my brother, the Crown Prince, wouldn't allow me to cry. He held my hand tightly and said, "Tong Tong, don't worry. You will always be my one and only Crown Princess. It's time for us to have a child." A month later, I was diagnosed with a joyful pulse. The Empress was overjoyed and sent many rare treasures to my courtyard. Even the Crown Prince is very concerned about the child in my womb. Once, I pretended to be asleep and overheard the Crown Prince suppressing his voice as he whispered in my ear, "Tong Tong, I will prove to your elder sister that the choice she made back then was wrong." The next day, I asked Xiaoju why my elder sister couldn't marry the Crown Prince together with me. But Xiaoju told me seriously, it's not that she couldn't, but that your elder sister was unwilling. Back then, the Crown Prince intended to marry her as his wife and you as his concubine, but she absolutely refused to let you enter the Eastern Palace, causing all sorts of trouble. I've never seen such a selfish family member. Others hope for their sisters to live well and support each other, but your elder sister, for her own selfish reasons, didn't care at all about the rest of your life. Even the Empress couldn't stand it anymore and ordered the Crown Prince to stay away from your elder sister. Everyone outside sympathizes with you. I only half understood, rubbing my increasingly round belly as I frowned and retorted, but my elder sister used to be very good to me. Whenever I wanted pastries, she would make them for me. Unexpectedly, the Crown Prince suddenly entered the room, reached out to pinch my nose, and said with an adoring gaze, "Silly girl. Whoever gives you food is good to you. What about me then?" I blinked and said, "You're good too." But there was still half a sentence I didn't say out loud. My parents and older sister from the past were the best. In the blink of an eye, my belly had swelled into a round ball. When Xiao Ju shouted, "The Crown Princess's water broke," I was sitting in the yard, swinging on the swing. I looked down and saw the clear liquid between my legs, then panicked, covering my head with my hands and trembling. I didn't pee, don't hit me." Brother Crown Prince rushed over, saw my frightened state, and without hesitation, scooped me up and dashed back into the house. He bent down and kissed my eyes, comforting me. "Don't be afraid, Tong Tong, I'm here. But right now, the one I want to see most isn't him, it's my sister." Xiaoju said that elder sister has been missing for a whole year. Crown Prince brother sent people to search for her, but there was no news at all. They all say that elder sister is dead. But I always feel that elder sister is still alive. Crown Prince, your noble body should not remain in the delivery room. Leave this to us. The midwife escorted the Crown Prince out. Immediately after, I heard encouraging voices around me. "Crown Princess, push. The baby is almost here. Great, I can see the end. One more push, and we'll succeed." But my face was already drenched in sweat. In a daze, I heard a cry, loud and crisp. "The baby is born. The Crown Princess has given birth. It's a prince." Firecrackers sounded outside the door, and I struggled to open my heavy eyelids, trying to get a clear look at the little prince being held by the midwife. At that moment, a thin figure suddenly rushed to my bedside. a chill ran through me, making my eyes widen involuntarily. Immediately after, a pair of withered hands grasped my warm palms, and I blurted out instinctively, "Sister, you've finally come to see me." The next moment, however, my sister pulled a dagger from her waist. This time, she aimed the dagger at my chest. Her voice trembled. "Ju Tong, why didn't you die in the enemy camp? Why did you have to come back alive? Why did you have to steal the life that was originally mine? I hate you. You've ruined my entire life. I curse you to be schemed against and die a miserable death in your later years. I curse your children to never live to grow up. I curse you and the Crown Prince to ultimately grow apart." My sister's words were filled with bitterness and rage, but I could see the turbulent emotions surging in her eyes. When everyone thought the dagger in her hand was about to pierce my chest and I would die, my elder brother, the Crown Prince, rushed in. He snatched the dagger from my sister's hand with his bare hands. Blood dripped onto my face, but he had no time to care, and with one kick, he sent my sister tumbling to the ground. I have never seen the Crown Prince brother so furious. He glared at my sister with hatred, his voice filled with uncontrollable anger. "Jiangyang, do you even have a heart? It was you who ruined your own position as the Crown Princess. And now you blame Tong Tong for taking the life that was originally yours. Someone as greedy and insatiable as you is utterly unworthy of joining our royal family. How dare you even curse my newborn child? Rest assured, Tong Tong and my child will not die young. He is my legitimate eldest son, and when I ascend the throne, he will be my crown prince. No one can ever shake his position. With such a status to protect him, he is destined to live a long and prosperous life. Your curse is destined to fail in this lifetime. Even if I have wronged the heavens and the earth, I will never have wronged Tong Tong." After saying this, the Crown Prince closed his eyes, drew the sword at his waist, and thrust it straight into my elder sister's chest. The moment my elder sister fell, I actually saw a faint smile on her face. It was just like when I was a child, sitting under the pear blossom tree as my elder sister wrapped my favorite glutinous rice balls for me, and she looked at me with a helpless yet indulgent expression when she caught me sneaking a bite. I told Xiaoju about this, but she shook her head and said fiercely, "Crown Princess, your elder sister is a wicked woman who deserves to die 1,000 deaths. In order to poison you and the young prince, she deliberately disfigured her own face and hid in the East Palace's backyard, working as a waste collector for half a year. Knowing that you were in labor, she took advantage of the chaos to sneak into your courtyard, intending to harm you and the young prince. If the Crown Prince hadn't arrived in time, you and the young prince would surely have been killed by her. She even cursed you and the young prince to die a miserable death. Someone as malicious as her deserves to be condemned to the 18th level of hell." I held the child in a daze, but in my heart, I thought, my sister should not be condemned to the 18th level of hell. Ever since giving birth, my originally smooth belly suddenly became covered with many terrifying venomous snakes. I was so frightened that I couldn't stop crying. Although my brother the Crown Prince brought the female physician to examine me, he also had the imperial kitchen send many delicious treats to comfort me, saying, "Tong Tong, don't be afraid, this is not a snake, it's a reward for your bravery in giving birth to our child." Although he claimed it was a reward, I still caught a faint trace of disdain flickering in my brother the Crown Prince's eyes. From that day on, my brother the Crown Prince visited me much less frequently. He said he was busy with official duties, but as I leaned by the window, I overheard the maid sweeping the courtyard saying that the Crown Prince had taken on a pleasing female apprentice by his side. She is the legitimate second daughter of the junior tutor's family. She is 15 this year, the same age as when I first married into the Eastern Palace. I have never met the legendary female disciple of the Crown Prince. I never suspected that the Crown Prince had any questionable relationship with her, until my child fell ill. After all the imperial physicians in the palace had examined him, they were at a loss and shook their heads, advising me to prepare for the worst. Even the empress herself came to the Eastern Palace to console me, telling me to take it easy and that I would have more children in the future. I couldn't understand their roundabout words, but I could understand the maids whispering privately. The young prince is on the verge of death, and the crown prince is still at the minister's residence celebrating Miss Yoon's birthday. Death. Will my child die? I don't like that word, because every time I hear that word, a loved one leaves me. My father and mother died. My sister is dead. I don't want my child to die too. So I asked Xiaoju to find brother the crown prince and tell him to come back and save our child. But Xiaoju rushed out of the mansion and returned in a sorry state. 2 winding whip marks appeared on her back, and she wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth to comfort me. Crown Princess, the young prince is blessed and will surely survive this calamity. Don't worry, once the crown prince finishes his tasks, he will surely come back to accompany you. But I waited and waited, until the sky turned dark, until the breath of the child in my arms grew weaker and weaker. Yet the crown prince still did not return. At this moment, suddenly, a rumor spread throughout the palace. The crown prince broke his poisonous oath, and the kingdom will suffer retribution. Panic immediately spread among the people. Even the director of the Imperial Observatory said, "Your servant observed the celestial phenomena at night and saw a star beside the purple forbidden enclosure dim and without light, accompanied by a comet's tail. This is an ominous sign for the Eastern Palace, indicating that the star of a noble person is being tarnished. I fear that the crown prince's virtue is lacking, affecting the celestial phenomena, which may be unfavorable to the nation's fortune. I implore your majesty to investigate this matter as soon as possible to calm the hearts of the people." Not long after, my elder brother, the crown prince, actually took the initiative to run out from the Xiaofu's residence. He paid no attention to his appearance, with disheveled hair and red-rimmed eyes, kneeling before my bed. In this lifetime, I have seen the crown prince's eyes redden 3 times in total. The first was on my wedding day, when my elder sister threatened him to choose between her and me. The second was when my elder sister passed away, as he drove the sword at his waist into her chest. The third is now, as he holds our child, desperately begging my elder sister not to take our child's life. Surprisingly, since my brother the crown prince came back and stayed with me for 3 days, my child's illness has actually improved. Even the imperial physicians exclaimed that this was a miracle. The Imperial Astronomical Bureau also repeatedly submitted memorials stating that the celestial phenomena had returned to normal, and the nation was prosperous and the people were at peace. From then on, the crown prince never went to see the daughter of the junior mentor again. Later, I heard from Xiaoju that the crown prince went to beg the empress to marry the legitimate daughter of the junior mentor's family to a remote fiefdom. Spring passed and autumn came. Another year went by. When my child called out mother for the first time, I was overjoyed, holding the child's chubby little hand. I repeatedly asked him to call me mommy one more time. Because of this, the crown prince was displeased. He picked up the chubby little boy, patted his bottom, and complained, "You little rascal, you only know how to call for mommy. Why don't you call for daddy?" Perhaps because he found our newly talking child so fascinating, the crown prince surprisingly stayed in my room for 7 consecutive days. Every night, he would say to me, "Tong Tong, let's have a daughter. If she takes after you, she would be so adorable." The following month, I indeed had the signs of pregnancy. This time, it truly was a daughter. I was overjoyed, and the crown prince was equally delighted. The entire palace and the common people held continuous feasts for 7 days in celebration. As I was pondering how to choose a pet name for my daughter, the crown prince said to me, "Tong Tong, I have guarded you for so many years and we have a son and a daughter together, which can be considered as fulfilling the vow I made back then. Now the court is in turmoil, and my younger brothers all harbor ambitions to seize the throne. I need support, don't worry. Even if I bring someone into the Eastern Palace, I will not neglect you because of it. My promise from back then still stands. You will always be my only crown princess, the future empress, and our runner will be the next crown prince, while our daughter will be the most honored eldest princess. The crown prince said a lot, but the only sentence I could truly understand was, "Tong Tong, may I take just one consort?" Before I could answer, Xiaoju suddenly led my runner into the room. Runner can now walk, but not very steadily, so someone needs to keep an eye on him at all times. He is very cute, with fair and tender skin, and his voice is soft and gentle. When he saw his elder brother, the crown prince, Runner actually stretched out his arms and firmly hugged his leg, saying in a childish voice, "Dad, Dad, dream, dream, Auntie, Auntie," said, "Take Runner to play." He spoke haltingly, but the crown prince's expression changed. I pieced together Runner's words. In his dream, there was an auntie who wanted to take him out to play. I wasn't sure which auntie Runner was referring to. Before I could even pick up Runner, the crown prince had already carried him straight into the study. When he pushed open the study door again, he said to his trusted aide beside him, "Go and report to the Empress Dowager. Have her find a reason to marry off the daughter of Senselin. I will not marry her. It has been 10 years since I've been with the crown prince. My runner is 6.5 years old. My Mian Mian is 5.5 years old. Over these 5 years, I have truly felt how difficult it is to raise a child. Raising 2 children is even harder. Although they are well behaved most of the time, children can be quite demanding at times." When Runner recited the entire 3-character classic in front of me, I suddenly noticed that the crown prince's complexion seemed much worse than before. Sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, I hear him lying by the bed coughing quietly, and once he even coughed up blood. But when the imperial physicians were summoned, they couldn't find the cause. Perhaps he was truly overwhelmed, so the crown prince transferred many of the maids serving him away from the Eastern Palace. He also spent more time with me and our 2 children than before, so I took the opportunity to leave the children with him and retreat to my room to experiment with making some snacks. Since my 25th birthday, I have matured a lot. At least I don't get teary-eyed so easily anymore. But I never expected that my elder brother, the crown prince, would bring a common fisherwoman back to the Eastern Palace after an inspection tour. This time, it was as if he was bewitched. He refused to listen to anyone's advice and insisted on taking the fisherwoman as his concubine, even as rumors spread throughout the palace. Once again bringing up the curse from my sister's past, he remained unmoved, determined to marry her. He even went so far as to declare he would give up his position as crown prince to live as an ordinary couple with her among the common people. When he knelt outside my door, begging me to approve his union with the fisherwoman, I opened the door, sniffled with my reddened nose, and asked him, "Brother Crown Prince, didn't you say you wanted to be my family?" "Tong Tong, I married you only to repay a favor." These 11 short words pierced my chest like needles. I asked Xiaoju what it means to repay a favor. This time, Xiaoju lied to me. She said, "Repaying a favor is also love. My brother, the crown prince, loves me." But I later realized that repaying a favor is not love, hatred is. I dreamed of my sister again. But in this dream, she didn't blame me for taking her marriage. Instead, just like when we were young, she placed me on her lap, gently stroked my forehead, and whispered in my ear, "Tong Tong, you've grown up, it's time to make your own decisions. Big sister can't help you anymore." After waking from the dream, I heard that the crown prince, in order to rescue the fisherwoman who had been imprisoned, forced his way into the jail and was stabbed 18 times by the imperial guards. Now, he is in critical condition. All the imperial physicians in the palace worked through the night to save him, barely managing to keep him alive. However, he lost his ability to have children. He would only ever have Runner and Mien Mien as his two children in this lifetime. The Crown Prince, his voice hoarse, told me, "Tong Tong, your sister's curse has haunted me my entire life. Now, I just want to live for myself for once. Is that really too much to ask?" I smiled and wiped the tears from the corner of his eye with my hand, telling him with a laugh, "Brother Crown Prince, thank you for taking care of me for so long. Now it's my turn to take care of you. Do whatever you want." Upon receiving my response, Brother Crown Prince was surprisingly overjoyed. Later, with my persuasion, the Emperor and Empress agreed to let Brother Crown Prince marry the fisherwoman. However, due to the widespread rumors from back then, no one truly respected that fisherwoman. After all, they all know that my runner is the future Crown Prince, the future Emperor. Anyone who dares to harm my runner is going against the fate of the nation. The fisherwoman, whom the Crown Prince once regarded as his true love, also revealed her greedy nature after entering the imperial harem. She wants to compete with me, to snatch things from me. She wants to climb to my position. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't restore the Crown Prince's body to health. And she couldn't bear children. She even went so far as to seek out many folk remedies from outside in an attempt to restore the Crown Prince's ability to have children. When Xiaoju told me that the fisherwoman had bought many aphrodisiacs from outside, which could easily harm a man's health, I was accompanying Runner as he exercised. Runner now has equestrian and archery lessons, so he must practice more. When I heard Xiaoju complaining to me that the fisherwoman wasn't following the East Palace rules, I quickly patted her shoulder and said, "Xiaoju, let her be." With my words, Xiaoju immediately gave the order, and the people in the East Palace no longer restrained the fisherwoman. I never expected that the folk remedies from outside would actually be somewhat effective. 6 months later, the fisherwoman actually became pregnant. The Crown Prince was both shocked and delighted. Thinking he had regained his fertility, in his excitement, he got drunk and favored a palace maid. When the news reached my ears, I was accompanying Mien Mien as she practiced her embroidery. The Empress said that Mien Mien's embroidery skills are even better than those of the palace seamstresses. Runner has also received praise from the junior tutor on multiple occasions. Even His Majesty said that Runner has the same brilliance as the Crown Prince had in his youth. I am very happy that my children are all working so hard, but accidents always come so unexpectedly. When I learned that Runner had fallen from a horse, hit his head, and was unconscious, I cried until I fainted, perhaps because I never cried or made a fuss. Nor did I complain about anyone in front of the Crown Prince. After hearing that I had fallen seriously ill, the Crown Prince once again stayed by my bedside for 3 days and 3 nights without closing his eyes. He knew he had wronged me and did not dare to easily forget the curse my sister had once uttered. Back then, when he risked his life and the fate of the nation to marry the fisherwoman, he knew full well that he owed me a favor. I held his hand tightly, begging him to investigate the cause of Runner's fall from the horse. He only thought I was anxious out of love for my son, not noticing the calmness in my eyes. After the Crown Prince left, I had Aju heat a basin of hot water, soaked a cloth in it, and wiped my hands 5 times over. Aju didn't mention anything, just watched me, and after a long while, she finally said, "Crown Princess, you and your elder sister are becoming more and more alike." I smiled. Yes, how could we not be alike? After all, we are family, perhaps driven by the Crown Prince's guilt. Within half a month, the cause of Runner's fall from the horse was uncovered. It was the fisherwoman who had done it, and on the day he discovered the fisherwoman, a major incident also occurred in the Eastern Palace. On her way to see me, Mien Mien accidentally witnessed the fisherwoman and the Crown Prince's personal guard engaging in shameless and indecent acts in the grass. When she was caught, the fishing girl's red bellaband was still hanging from the guard's waist, truly insane. Therefore, the child in her womb was most likely not the Crown Prince's. Because of this, The crown prince became deeply depressed. I did not show myself throughout the whole incident, only hearing that the crown prince ordered the fishing girl's body to be taken out of the palace overnight. As for how she died, I didn't want to inquire, afraid of dirtying my ears. I used the excuse of needing to care for Runner, who had fallen from a horse, and had no time to accompany the crown prince, so I transferred a palace maid who had previously been favored by the crown prince to take care of him. Perhaps because he had just experienced betrayal, the maid's casual words of comfort easily found their way into his heart. Upon learning this, I remained silent but repeatedly instructed the Eastern Palace kitchen to prepare more medicinal meals for the crown prince. When my actions reached the Empress's ears, she praised me, saying that although my mind might not be as sharp as others, my approach was generous, perhaps because of the contrast with my elder sister, who had once gone mad. No one in the entire imperial harem failed to praise me, and I, too, grew accustomed to the praise. My child, because of her cleverness and intelligence, was called Fubao. After I finished listening to Runner recite the governance strategy in its entirety, the tightly wound string in my heart finally loosened. At the same time, tragic news came from the palace. The emperor had died. When the news reached the Eastern Palace, the crown prince actually fell right off his fragrant couch. Perhaps due to overwhelming emotion, his lower body suddenly became paralyzed. He sent someone to summon me, unaware that I had already arranged everything and was on my way with my Runner and Mian Mian. When Xiao Ju and his men carried the disheveled crown prince into the palace on a stretcher, everyone covered their eyes. The crown prince, blushing with embarrassment, pounded the ground with his fist and threatened to have Xiao Ju executed by 1,000 cuts. He never dreamed that the spy he had placed by my side would one day turn against him. Even more unimaginable was that Xiao Ju had been a member of our general's manor from the very beginning. She was my elder sister's person. Xiao Ju said to him, "Your Highness, there are countless ways to repay a favor, yet you chose the most foolish one. Back then, you wanted to use Miss Tongtong's life to lure out the enemy forces, seizing the opportunity to secure your position as the crown prince. And you threatened General Ju with the lives of his entire clan to force him to abandon his daughter. Years later, you again tried to use the act of repaying a favor to gain a reputation for being righteous and honorable. You even wanted to have the best of both worlds, wanting everything at once. Did you think Miss Yang was acting out of spite, trying to force you to give up on marrying her? It's because she hates you. She hates you for trapping her only sister for your own selfish reasons, and for trying to confine her most beloved sister within these walls. She resents you for using the entire Ju family as a pawn in your scheme. Knowing your temperament, she was aware that sooner or later you would sacrifice the entire Ju clan to pave your own way. That's why she took such a desperate risk, even staking her own marriage. Miss Yang said that Miss Tongtong has already suffered enough in the first half of her life. Since she couldn't change your decision, she would use her own life to pave a way for Miss Tongtong to survive. By this point, Xiao Ju was already sobbing uncontrollably. I could tell that she wanted to follow my elder sister in death, but I wouldn't let her do that. Taking advantage of the chaos in the harem, I had the people I had arranged earlier prepare the funeral rites on my behalf. I also sent my Runner and Mian Mian to accompany the Empress. Using the excuse of feeling unwell, I briefly left my seat and seized the opportunity to push open the door and grab the dagger in Xiao Ju's hand. Xiao Ju stared at me, her eyes already brimming with tears. I told her, "You've said so many bad things about my sister. If you don't clear her name, she'll blame you when you meet in the afterlife." Upon hearing this, Xiao Ju loosened her grip and hugged me tightly. Sobbing, the crown prince stared at me, so angry that he coughed up a mouthful of blood. "Ju Tong, you and your elder sister have deceived me for so many years." At this moment, even if I didn't say it, he could figure everything out. From the moment my parents disowned me, From the moment my sister grew to hate me, every time he defended me, every vow he made, it was all a trap. I knew from the very beginning that Xiaoju was my elder sister's person, because the peach blossom tattoo on her wrist is shaped like the peach cookies my sister used to make for me. Every time Xiaoju vents her anger in front of me, I can see tears welling up in her eyes. I know she is suffering just as much as I am. I also know that my sister is the one who has always treated me the best in this world. She used her own bad reputation to pave a bright and glorious path for me. I remember one time, when the crown prince was drunk, he mistook me for my sister and spoke a heartfelt truth. Yang, you are the one who understands me best in this world. Yes. My sister truly is the one who understands him best in this world. So she knew that the crown prince's heart could not be reserved for her alone, and she dared not gamble on how long his true feelings would last. So from the very beginning, she was scheming on her behalf. The sarcastic remark her mother made on her deathbed gave her a child to secure her position. Her sister's premeditated assassination provided her child with the means to contend for the throne. The rumors that spread throughout the palace became the prison that confined the crown prince. However, my sister could not have anticipated the unexpected. The appearance of that fisherwoman did indeed slightly affect my life. Therefore, every action that followed was carried out by my own hands. I remember that old Dr. Lin from the Imperial Hospital was a close friend of my father's. When I was born, he even gave me a longevity lock. The director of the Qin Tianjian, Wu Zhenjing, was a poor scholar my father once supported. He owed our family a debt of gratitude, which has now been repaid. The palace maid who seduced the crown prince was a pitiful soul I once saved by chance. And then there are my precociously sensible children, Runner and Mian Mian. They are all indispensable pieces in my plan for revenge. The crown prince couldn't believe that for so many years, he had been completely fooled by someone like me. A fool. But even if he knew the truth now, it was useless. Because the throne was never going to be his to sit on. To avoid any unexpected complications, I instructed Xiaoju to add an extra dose of red-crowned crane poison to the prepared toxic brew. I knew the crown prince wanted to curse me and my child, just as he had done to my elder sister, but I didn't give him the chance. With one bowl of poison, all he could do was stare wide-eyed as he slowly lost his breath. He seems to have forgotten that my survival and return from the enemy camp wasn't solely due to passive acceptance. As the saying goes, those who can crawl out of hell have long become demons. The national mourning period has not yet ended. The crown prince also passed away due to excessive grief. Although there was chaos within the court, most people did not feel much emotion due to the crown prince's absurd behavior over the years. In fact, many even breathed a sigh of relief upon his death. After all, no one wanted a crown prince who treated the nation's fate so lightly to ascend the throne. Moreover, the crown prince had once said, "My runner is my only heir. As for the throne, whether I take it sooner or later, I will sit on it. So, taking it a little earlier wouldn't hurt." 19. On the day Runner ascended the throne, I was honored as the Empress Dowager, because in previous years, the crown prince, in a fit of pique with my elder sister, had distributed porridge outside the city to build a good reputation for me. Everyone in the imperial court and the harem held me in special esteem. Moreover, over the years, I had been obedient and dutiful in front of the empress, never causing any trouble, so no one in the harem could find fault with me. In fact, because of my perceived foolishness, no one even suspected that I would attempt to govern from behind the curtain, contend for power with my own son, or allow my maternal relatives to monopolize authority. The brilliant path my sister paved for me is indeed full of brightness. During my days as the youngest Empress Dowager, I began to learn from my sister and spent all day in the small kitchen. Xiaoju and I tried to recreate the pastries my sister used to make for me, relying on our memories. But no matter how hard I tried, I could never make them exactly like my sister did. Gradually, I can hardly remember my sister's face anymore. When Mian Mian turned 18, I held her hand and sent her off to be married. I also watched as Runner got married. Finally, another winter came, and I sat under the eaves, watching the heavy snow cover the fallen red plum blossom, watching the wisp of smoke rising from the small kitchen. The memory of the pastry's taste brought tears to my eyes. I called out Xiao Ju's name, only to remember that she had gone to find my sister half a year ago. I counted the time and realized it had been many years since I last saw my sister. I miss her so much, so I looked at the slowly rising dawn and closed my eyes. Sister, I've come to find you. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. When I was 10 years old, my father took me to a banquet to dance. Prince Jing held me on his lap and gently stroked my hair. The emperor, seated in the main position, said, "She's too young. Take her back and raise her for another 2 years." After that day, my father was appointed as the great general who guards the north. Returning home, my mother tore my dress to shreds. Aang is your own flesh and blood. The next day, my mother drowned in the lotus pond, and my father suddenly began to cherish me as if I were a treasure. In the year I came of age, my childhood sweetheart wanted to marry me. I was about to agree when I saw someone in the distance. I could only smile and say I don't want to. I was clearly just one step away from happiness. On the day I came of age, the general's mansion of the northern garrison was decorated with lanterns and streamers, filled with guests. Jiyu Chongyuan stood under the tree, his eyes gentle. "Aang, I have long admired you. Will you marry me?" Surrounded by the soft laughter and admiration of the guests, this was a dream I had countless times, happiness within reach. I was ready to embrace the future I had always hoped for. Yet, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure. The fear from that night 5 years ago came rushing back. "Ah Ying." Jiyu Chongyuan called out to me with concern, instinctively reaching out to smooth my wind-tossed hair. I took a sudden step back, avoiding him. I dug my nails deep into my palm, using all my strength to force out a smile. "Your Highness's deep affection. I am unworthy of it. I cannot accept." The smile on Jiyu Chongyuan's face froze, the light in his eyes turning into disbelief and astonishment. The surroundings fell silent, all eyes focused on me, filled with scrutiny and confusion. Happiness was clearly within reach, yet I had pushed it away with my own hands, just one step away. In the end, I was still one step short. My thoughts uncontrollably drifted back to 5 years ago, to that night that changed my life forever. I had just turned 10 at the time. My father, Shen Wei, served as the general of the cavalry. He attended the banquet to network with the nobility and consolidate his power. Before the banquet, my mother, while combing my hair, anxiously said to my father, "Wei Lang, Aang is still young. Is it appropriate for her to appear at such an occasion? I heard that today, His Majesty will be attending." Father was adjusting his official robe in front of the mirror. "A woman's opinion. Precisely because His Majesty is visiting, it's even more important for Aang to go out and see the world. Is my daughter, Shen Wei's daughter, not presentable?" He turned around and picked up the gorgeous feathered dance dress nearby. "Come, Aang, put this on. Later at the banquet, dance for your father and the esteemed guests." I looked at the beautiful dress in confusion, feeling both happy and a little scared. "Father, do I really have to dance? There are so many strangers." Father wore a rare gentle smile on his face, pinched my cheek and said, "Of course you must dance. My Aang dances the best. Be good. If you dance well, Father will have a pair of golden bell bracelets made for you." I was drawn in by his promise and nodded, but my mother pulled me into her embrace, her voice choked with sobs. "No, I don't agree. Ayan is your own flesh and blood. How could you let her go to such a place? My father pulled my mother away sharply. How dare you? How I raise my daughter is not for you to interfere with. Stay in the inner quarters and mind your own business. His eyes were icy cold, and my mother's face turned pale, her lips trembling. But in the end, she said nothing more. At the banquet, I was led into the hall, surrounded by all kinds of gazes that made me very uncomfortable. As the music began, I danced gracefully, and praises came from all around. When the dance ended and I was about to step back, Prince Jing, seated below the host, laughed heartily and beckoned to me. Little Aang, come here and let me have a look. General Shen, your daughter is truly adorable. My father smiled beside him. Your Highness flatters her. My daughter is mischievous. I walked over, and Prince Jing picked me up and placed me on his lap. He pinched my cheek and then rubbed the mole on my wrist. Look at these features, she's bound to be a beauty someday. I looked at my father pleadingly, but he just lowered his eyes, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. At that moment, a voice sounded, too young. Everyone's gaze turned toward the head of the table. He paused briefly before continuing. Take her back and raise her properly for another 2 years. At that moment, I clearly saw the wild joy in my father's eyes as he knelt down. Your servant kowtows in gratitude for your majesty's great favor. I will strictly follow the imperial decree and carefully educate my daughter. Your majesty, that man was the emperor. At the time, I didn't fully understand the true meaning of those words, only sensing that Prince Jing, who was holding me, stiffened for a moment before smiling and setting me down. Your majesty is right. A promising seedling must be carefully cultivated. That night, my father obtained the title of Great General who guards the north and military authority over Liaodong as he had wished. On the carriage ride back, he was brimming with pride, while I felt uneasy. As soon as the carriage came to a halt, my mother rushed out. Her face was deathly pale as she yanked me out of the carriage. She glared fiercely at my father. Shen Wei, Aang is your own flesh and blood. How could you let those people? You're trampling her like this. May you die a miserable death. The smile vanished from my father's face. Shut up. What nonsense are you spouting? As my daughter, it is only right for her to contribute to the family's future. If not for this, where would the glory of the general's manor come from? Glory, mother laughed, pulling the silver hairpin from her hair. I find it filthy. Glory bought at the cost of my own daughter's innocence and reputation. Shen Wei, I'm taking iron away today. Father's face turned pale. You're insane. Stop her. The servants rushed forward all at once. In the chaos, mother was wrestled for the silver hairpin and forcibly dragged back to the rear courtyard. That night, the rear residence of the general's mansion was filled with my mother's cries and my father's roars. I hid under the quilt, trembling, not understanding what had happened. The next morning, I was awakened by the maidservants weeping. They told me that my mother had accidentally slipped and drowned in the lotus pond in the backyard. Father rushed over upon hearing the news and stood beside mother, remaining silent for a long time. Then, he looked at me, who was trembling with fear. He walked over and, for the first time, held me tightly in his arms. Ah Ying, don't be afraid. From now on, father will treat you well. After the funeral, my father held me close. I no longer had to sit in the family school with my half-siblings, listening to the tutor drone on about tedious texts like admonitions for women and domestic instructions. Father hired a private tutor for me to study the Book of Songs, Songs of Chu, and even the strategies of the warring states. The newly arrived music teacher was teaching me a new piece when father entered and dismissed the teacher. He picked up the Book of Songs I had placed aside, casually flipping through it. Aang, a woman's appearance is a gift from heaven. But having only a pretty face makes one a mere plaything. One must be well-read and articulate to catch the eye of a distinguished person. I looked up at him and asked, Father, am I learning these things so that, as mother said, I can marry into a good family in the future? My father reached out as if to pat my head as he used to, but I instinctively flinched. His hand paused mid-air, then he patted my shoulder instead. My daughter is now the legitimate young lady of the Zhonbei General's manor, so your marriage is naturally of great importance. How could ordinary nobles be worthy of you? Your destiny lies in a higher place. A higher place. Where is that higher place? But, father, no buts. Father interrupted me, aying. You must remember that everything you have now, fine clothes, delicious food, honor, and dignity, is what I, and you, must bear for the family. Be obedient and study well. After he left, I realized clearly for the first time that I was not studying for myself. The servants in the mansion became increasingly respectful toward me, even to the point of being cautious. The way they looked at me had changed. They no longer saw me as a carefree young lady. The only one who could give me a breath of fresh air was Jiyu Chongyuan. He was the heir to the Duke of Anghua, about my age, and often visited our estate because of the friendship between our fathers. When my mother was alive, we would often chase butterflies in the garden and play hide-and-seek behind the rockeries. He always saved the most novel trinkets for me. Nowadays, we meet less often, and there are more rules to follow, but he always finds a way. In the afternoon, I was practicing calligraphy in the study when the window was tapped. I pushed open the window, and Jiyu Chongyuan appeared outside, aying, "Guess what I've brought for you?" I glanced around and whispered, "Why are you climbing the wall again? If my father finds out, what's there to be afraid of?" he said nonchalantly as he entered, pulling a grass-woven grasshopper from behind his back. "Here, isn't it nice?" I took the grasshopper from him. "How old are you? Still playing with things like this? You stay cooped up indoors all day, either writing or playing the qin. Your face is almost as pale as rice paper." He casually picked up the calligraphy copybook I was practicing from. "Guan Guan Ju Ju, in the river islets, you've improved, much better than last time." I glared at him reproachfully and made a move to snatch it back. He dodged with a laugh, aying, "You look much better when you smile. Just like before, just like before." What was it like before? It was when mother was still alive. When Shen Aang could still act spoiled in her father's embrace and didn't have to dance for others. "Brother Chongyuan, do you think a woman must marry? Must she marry someone she doesn't want to marry?" The smile on Jiyu Chongyuan's face faded slightly. He put down the calligraphy copybook and asked, "Who is forcing you to marry someone you don't want to? Uncle Shen? Has he arranged a marriage for you?" I shook my head, unsure of how to explain. "Aang, don't be afraid." He looked at me. If you don't want to in the future, I'll beg my father. We'll go plead with His Majesty." "No, don't mention His Majesty, don't mention anyone." Jiyu Chongyuan was startled by my reaction and quickly said, all right, I won't mention it." "Aang, what's wrong with you?" I let go of his hand, forcing down the fear in my heart, and shook my head. "It's nothing. Brother Chongyuan, from now on, don't come looking for me so often. If father finds out, it won't be good. I know Uncle Shen has many rules now. But Aang, remember, no matter what happens, I will always be on your side. He will always be on my side." This sentence became the only light in my dark days. However, this light could not dispel the approaching shadows. The coming-of-age ceremony was approaching day by day, and my father's gaze toward me grew increasingly complex, tinged with anticipation. 3 days ago, he summoned me to the ancestral hall, where we stood before the memorial tablets of the Shen family's ancestors. "Aying, kneel. Do you know why our Shen family was able to rise from humble origins to become prominent figures in the current dynasty?" I lowered my head. "Because our ancestors fought bravely, and my father achieved outstanding military merits." "Exactly, it's military merit, it's the emperor's favor. But the emperor's heart is unpredictable, and military merits can be replaced. For a family to prosper long term, what is needed is connections, an indispensable presence." He walked up to me. Your mother. She doesn't understand, she thinks I'm degrading you, but she doesn't realize that sending you to that highest position is what's truly best for you, and for the Shen family. Father, are you asking me to? His Majesty has spoken, commanding you to be well raised. My father interrupted. For 5 years, I have meticulously nurtured you, literature, etiquette, music, and dance. You have mastered them all. Now that you have come of age, it is time to repay the family for their upbringing. Repay the upbringing. So, the freedom my mother failed to win even with her death, the obedience I so carefully maintained, the faint warmth Jiyu Changyuan brought, all seemed so pale and laughable in the face of my father's words. After all, I am merely a sacrifice, meticulously polished for 5 years, about to be offered up. As I looked at my father's face, distorted by his lust for power, I felt hatred clearly for the first time. On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, the general's residence was more bustling than ever before. Even the palace sent down congratulatory gifts. Father's face was filled with unconcealed pride and ambition as he moved among the guests, accepting everyone's compliments. I sat in my chamber, being dressed and made up by the maids. Young Miss is so beautiful, surely the most stunning girl in the capital today, the maid praised. Beautiful. I looked at the unfamiliar reflection in the mirror, feeling only that the bright red was glaringly harsh. Ying. Father's voice sounded outside the door. He had come personally to take me out. Many distinguished guests have arrived today. Even the heir of the Duke of An is here. He looked at me with a meaningful gaze. My child, you have grown up. It's time to make some decisions, for yourself and for the family. As I entered the main hall, all eyes turned to me. I saw many familiar faces. And I saw several esteemed princes seated at the head of the hall. I saw Jiyu Changyuan. He was also dressed particularly formally today. He looked at me with a focused gaze, filled with tension and anticipation. The coming-of-age ceremony proceeded step by step, listening to the teachings, offering sacrifices. With every bow, I felt I was drawing closer to that predetermined fate. The ceremony was nearing its end. Jiyu Changyuan took a deep breath and walked up to me. He turned to my father and bowed solemnly. Uncle Shen. Then he turned to me. Ying, we have known each other since childhood, and our bond runs deep. I, Jiyu Changyuan, vow in this lifetime to marry no one but you. Today, in the presence of our elders, family, and friends, I ask for your hand in marriage. I swear upon the century-long reputation of the Anghua Duke's estate that I will cherish you as a treasure, protect you for the rest of my life, and stay by your side until our hair turns white. Ying, will you accept? All eyes are on me, waiting for my answer. I do. I look at him, thinking that by saying I do, I might break free and possess the ordinary, warm happiness he promised. At this moment, I saw a familiar figure. The emperor was dressed in casual attire, his face expressionless, his gaze calmly resting on me. There was no threat, no anger. My father stood slightly bowed, his face filled with reverence and submission. His eyes met mine, holding a cold warning. The fear from 5 years ago surged back, the nauseating smell of alcohol from Prince Jing, the emperor's comment that she was too young, and her mother's heart-wrenching sobs. Ying, Jiyu Changyuan called out softly in confusion. He saw the fear in my eyes and instinctively took a step forward, reaching out to brush aside the hair by my temple. Don't touch me. I avoided him. Jiyu Changyuan's hand hung in midair just like that, the light in his eyes shifting from anticipation to confusion, then to unbelievable astonishment. Ying, you. I bit my lower lip hard. I couldn't harm him. I couldn't let the Jiyu family become the second Shen family. Couldn't let Jiyu Changyuan because of me. Summoning all my strength, I forced a smile. Young master, your deep affection. Ying, I am unworthy of such kindness. I do not wish to. Jiyu Changyuan stared at me blankly, saying nothing as he turned and walked away. The father stepped forward, cupping his hands toward the crowd. My daughter has been impolite, making you all laugh. She's just a child who momentarily lost her way. Please be understanding. Be understanding. Happiness was so close to me, so close that I could feel its warmth. Just one step away. In the end, it was still one step short. The farce at the coming-of-age ceremony quickly spread throughout the capital. Shenaying, the legitimate daughter of the general of Zhenbei's residence, publicly rejected the marriage proposal from Jiyu Chongyuan, the heir of the Duke of Anghua, becoming the talk of the town. Have you heard? Miss Shen has such high standards that she even turned down the heir. Perhaps it's not about high standards, but that she's aiming for a higher branch. TSK. With young Master Gu's talent and family background, it's truly a pity. I locked myself in my room, claiming to have caught a cold. My father came to see me the next day. He dismissed the attendants, leaving only the two of us, father and daughter, in the room. He offered neither comfort nor blame, simply standing by the window, gazing outside. Ah Ying, you did very well yesterday. The Jiyu family's son is not a suitable match for you. The Anghua Duke's residence may appear illustrious, but in reality, it's already an empty shell with no real power in the court. His Majesty has long been dissatisfied with these nobles. He took a few steps closer. Do you know why His Majesty personally visited yesterday? It was because of you, he said with pride in his tone. Despite His Majesty's countless responsibilities, he still remembered your coming-of-age ceremony and attended in person. What an extraordinary honor! In the entire capital, which other daughter has received such glory? Your rejection of Jiyu Chongyuan aligns perfectly with His Majesty's wishes. He lowered his voice, carrying a hint of persuasion. His Majesty has seen your understanding and recognized our Shen family's loyalty. Aang, we are on the right path. So, Father, what should I do next? A smile spread across Father's face. Your bright future has only just begun. Not long after he spoke, a commotion suddenly erupted outside the mansion, followed by the panicked voice of the steward announcing, "General, someone from the palace is here." It's Chief Steward Zhong from His Majesty's side. Father immediately straightened his attire and hurried out. I was also supported by the maid as I made my way to the front hall. General Shen, received the imperial decree. Father immediately led everyone in the household to kneel on the ground. Lady Shen Aing, daughter of General Zhenbei Shen Wei, is gentle and virtuous by nature, graceful and talented in both character and appearance. The Empress Dowager, upon hearing of her, has grown exceedingly fond, by special grace. She is permitted to enter the palace this very day to attend at the Sinning Palace, so it is decreed, accompany the Empress Dowager, your servant, Shen Wei, kowtows in gratitude for the grace of His Majesty and the Empress Dowager. Long live the Emperor, 10,000 years, 10,000 times 10,000 years. Chief Steward Zhong handed the imperial edict to my father. Miss Shen, pack your things and follow me into the palace. Her Majesty the Empress Dowager is waiting. Please wait a moment, eunuch. My daughter will prepare right away, my father quickly replied, then turned and gave me a meaningful look, signaling me to hurry and get ready. I returned to my room, and the maids quickly and efficiently changed my clothes for me. Once everything was in order, I passed by the courtyard where my mother once lived for the last time, and then by the lotus pond. My father saw me off at the mansion's entrance. Ying, he straightened my cloak for me. Once you enter the palace, it's different from home. Be cautious in all matters. Watch your words and actions. Serve the Empress Dowager well. He paused, looking into my eyes. Don't forget your mother. Don't forget. The honor and disgrace of the Shen family all rest on you. I looked at him. Father, rest assured, your daughter will keep it in mind. I will definitely not follow in mother's footsteps. Go ahead. The carriage had long been prepared, magnificent yet cold. I couldn't help but look back at the general of the northern garrison's residence. Chief Steward Zhong's voice rang out, "Miss Shen, please step out of the carriage." Behind me, the palace gates closed, completely cutting off everything from the outside world. I was assigned to the moon viewing pavilion next to Sinying Palace. Chief Steward Zhong handed me over to a matron surnamed Yang before leaving to report back on his duty. Nanny Yang looked me up and down. "Miss Shen, now that you've come to Sinying Palace, you must abide by the rules here. Her Majesty the Empress Dowager enjoys tranquility, so on ordinary days, do not wander around unnecessarily. If you disturb her, neither you nor I can bear the consequences. There are many noble figures in the palace, and there are just as many watchful eyes. Miss Shen, you must be cautious in your words and actions, and avoid any missteps that could bring trouble to the general's manor, as well as to Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. Yes, Aang will remember Nanny's teachings. Every day at Chen hour, you must go to the main hall to pay respects to Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. If she asks you questions, think carefully before answering. Do not speak too much, but do not remain silent either. The palace is not like the outside world. A single word or glance can bring disaster. Miss Shen is an intelligent person, so you surely understand what I mean." A Ying understands. In the following days, I went to pay my respects to the Empress Dowager on time every day. The Empress Dowager was an elderly woman with a kind and gentle face. She treated me neither warmly nor coldly. Most of the time, she simply had me stay by her side to chat idly or listen to her recite scriptures. Occasionally, she would ask about matters outside the palace or inquire about my father, and I would respond with the utmost caution. The Sinying Palace is vast and empty. Apart from the Empress Dowager, there are only a group of expressionless palace maids. Half a month after entering the palace, I happened to meet the Emperor in the Imperial Garden. He hadn't come specifically, he was just passing by. I had no choice but to kneel down along with the palace maid behind me. "Lift your head." He looked me over and asked, "Are you accustomed to life in the Empress Dowager's palace?" "Your Majesty, the Empress Dowager is kind and compassionate. Everything is going well." He responded. General Shen submitted a memorial the day before yesterday, mentioning the military affairs in the northern border, and incidentally, asked about you. "Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. My father is loyal to the sovereign and devoted to the country, and he will surely handle the affairs in the northern border well." The Emperor chuckled lightly. "Loyal to the sovereign and devoted to the country. Indeed, take good care of the Empress Dowager. If you need anything or are short of anything, go to the Imperial Household Department to get it." "Yes, thank you for your grace, Your Majesty." He didn't say anything more and left. After that, I ran into him twice more by chance. Once was on my way to pay respects, when he happened to pass by. Another time was when the Empress Dowager kept me for a conversation, and he came to pay his respects. Each time, he didn't say much to me. One day after paying respects to the Empress Dowager, I was asked to stay and keep her company to relieve her boredom. An elderly consort who was on good terms with the Empress Dowager was also there, sharing some old stories from the palace. Speaking of which, General Shen is currently enjoying the Emperor's great favor. His Majesty has entrusted the northern border entirely to General Shen. I heard that just the other day. He even rejected the Ministry of War's proposal to send additional military supervisors. This is a tremendous show of trust. The Empress Dowager moved her prayer beads. The Emperor has his own considerations. My hand holding the teacup trembled slightly, splashing a few drops of hot water. Has my father's power in the military grown to such an extent? Returning to the moon viewing pavilion, I dismissed the palace maids and sat alone by the window. "Miss, the day before yesterday, the old lady of the Angua Duke's residence submitted a request to enter the palace to pay respects to the Empress Dowager, but she was politely declined on the grounds that Her Majesty was unwell," the personal maid, Chiowen, reported in a low voice. "And I heard that since that day, Lord Jiyu has secluded himself at home, 2 days ago, he submitted a memorial to His Majesty, requesting to train at the Jingji camp. His Majesty approved it. Jiyu Chongyuan has gone to the military camp. Is it to distance himself from the troubles of the capital, or is it because of me? Either way, it no longer has anything to do with me. I am already trapped in this deep palace. While the world outside is quietly changing, my father's military power, Jiyu Chongyuan's experience, I am a pawn used by the emperor to restrain my father, and by my father to secure favor. The peonies in the imperial garden are in full bloom. The Empress Dowager was in high spirits and set up a small flower viewing banquet in the garden, inviting only a few imperial consorts and some palace concubines to accompany her. Naturally, I was seated in the last place. During the banquet, there was cheerful conversation and laughter, with several concubines vying for attention, telling witty jokes to amuse the Empress Dowager. I kept my head down the entire time, trying to minimize my presence, just hoping for the banquet to end sooner. Are you settling in well in the palace, Miss Shen? A gentle voice spoke up. It was Consort Li, seated across from me. She had not been in the palace for long, came from an unremarkable family background, and was usually quite reserved. Replying to Lady Zhao Yi, everything is fine. Thank you for the care from Her Majesty the Empress Dowager and all the ladies. Lady Zhao Yi covered her mouth with a light laugh. There's no need for such courtesy, Miss Shen. Speaking of which, I truly envy you for being able to stay by the Empress Dowager's side so often. Unlike us, it's difficult for us to even see the Empress Dowager on ordinary days. I heard the other day that the heir of the Duke of An, young Master Jiyu, has gone to the capital camp. Ah, such a noble and precious person going to endure hardships in the military, what a pity. As her words fell, several gazes at the banquet immediately turned to me, filled with curiosity and a sense of amusement. Who doesn't know that I rejected the marriage proposal from the heir of the Jiyu family at my coming-of-age ceremony? The heir has great ambitions and serves the country. That is a good thing. The Empress Dowager fiddled with her prayer beads and glanced at Consort Li. The Emperor values young people gaining experience. That is a good thing. If you have spare time, Consort, you might as well copy a few more volumes of scriptures to calm your mind. Consort Li's face turned pale. Yes, the Empress Dowager then looked at me and said, Aang, you're grown now. Some things, once they're past, are past. Look forward, and a better future awaits. Yes, Aang will remember the Empress Dowager's teachings. A few days after the flower viewing banquet, I stayed a little longer at the Empress Dowager's quarters, and by the time I returned to the moon viewing pavilion, the sky had already darkened. A figure suddenly emerged from behind the rockery and thrust a crumpled paper ball into my hand. Returning to the moon viewing pavilion, she dismissed the attendants and, under the lamplight, tremblingly unfolded the letter. It was Jiyu Chongyuan's handwriting. 3 days from now, at the hour of high, in the side alley of Shihua Gate. Wait for me. He's gone mad. Having illicit relations with palace women and trespassing into the forbidden palace grounds, these are crimes punishable by the extermination of one's entire clan. How could he be so foolish? For the next 3 days, I was restless with anxiety. Shihua Gate, the guards there are relatively lax, but it's by no means foolproof. If discovered, not only would he and I be left with no place to be buried, but it would also implicate the entire Nguogong residence and the Zhunbei general's manor. But that is Jiyu Chongyuan. He is the young man who gave me the only warmth during my darkest days, the one I pushed away with my own hands, leaving him utterly broken. Is he taking such a huge risk because he has a foolproof plan? Could this truly be my chance to escape? On the 3rd day, the hour of high was approaching. To go, or not to go? The outer courtyard gate was opened. Immediately after, Nanny Yang's voice sounded outside the door. Miss Shen, are you asleep? Her Majesty the Empress Dowager suddenly remembered that she left a volume of Buddhist scriptures here and sent me to fetch it. The Empress Dowager never left any Buddhist scriptures here. I forced myself to calm down, put on my outer garment, and opened the door. Please come in, madam. She walked around the room. You look pale, miss. Are you feeling unwell? Thank you for your concern. Mother Lao, I'm just a bit tired. In that case, rest early, miss. The wind is strong at night. Close the doors and windows properly so you don't catch a cold. She left with the others. Mother Yang's appearance completely shattered my last shred of hope. I don't know if Jiyu Chongyuan went, or if he waited there all night. The next day, all was calm. It wasn't until the afternoon that Chief Steward Zhong personally came to the moon viewing pavilion. Miss Shen, His Majesty has issued an oral decree requesting your presence at the Qian Yuan Hall. I followed Chief Steward Zhong towards the Hall of Qian Yuan. The Hall of Qian Yuan was where the emperor rested while handling state affairs, not a formal place for receiving officials. Inside the hall, a faint scent of ambergris lingered in the air, and the emperor sat on a soft couch beneath the window. I knelt and paid my respects. Your servant Shun Aang pays homage to your majesty. He did not call me to rise, nor did he lift his head. After a long while, he set down the memorial and turned his gaze to me. Last night, something interesting happened at the capital garrison. The heir of Duke Angua, Jiyu Chongyuan, abandoned his post without permission, secretly returned to the capital, and was loitering suspiciously outside the Shihua Gate. He was apprehended on the spot by the night patrol guards. The guards found a letter on his person. The letter was written to you. A Ying. He picked up the letter and read aloud. A Ying. Reading these words is like seeing you in person. I know life in the Deep Palace is not easy for you, and my heart is deeply troubled. Everything has been arranged. 3 days from now, at the hour of high, in the side alley of the West Flowery Gate, wait for me. Even if it means facing 10,000 deaths, I will take you away. Even if it means facing 10,000 deaths, I will take you away. The emperor repeated these words. What a deeply devoted and righteous Marquis Jiyu. He stood up and walked over to me. You tell me, trespassing into the palace, attempting to abduct a palace attendant with these multiple crimes combined, how should I deal with the Nguogong residents, and how should I deal with your loyal father? I crawled forward 2 steps on my knees, grabbing his dragon robe. Your Majesty, please show mercy. It is all my fault. I bewitched the heir. It has nothing to do with the heir. It has nothing to do with the Nguogong residents or my father. I beg for your Majesty's mercy. I beg you, nothing to do with it, he said coldly. He wrote it clearly in his letter, wanting to take you away. Shen Aang, tell me, did you know about it? Did you agree? What else could I say? If I say I knew, I become an accomplice, and my crime is even greater. If I say I am willing, I am admitting to betrayal and disloyalty to the emperor's authority. I closed my eyes and heavily knocked my forehead against the ground. I did not know. I, your humble subject, am utterly loyal to your Majesty and the Empress Dowager, without a trace of duplicity. The heir of the Jiyu family was merely momentarily confused. I beg your Majesty to spare his life in consideration of the generations of loyalty from the House of Angua. After a long silence, the emperor slowly spoke. Jiyu Chongyuan is stripped of his title as heir, sentenced to 100 strokes of the cane, exiled 3,000 li, and forbidden from returning to the capital for life. The Duke of Angua has failed in educating his son. He is to forfeit 3 years' salary and reflect on his mistakes behind closed doors. As for you, go back and stay quietly in the Sinning Palace. If you entertain any more improper thoughts, next time, it won't just be the title of the heir that you lose. In the end, he still did not kill Jiyu Chongyuan. The emperor did not restrict my movements. I still went to the Sinning Palace every day to pay my respects and still encountered him by chance in the imperial garden. The look in his eyes when he looked at me carried satisfaction. He thought I had yielded. He was wrong. Jiyu Chongyuan's future My mother's wrongful death, my trampled life, these blood debts must be repaid by someone. I began to become docile. I became more respectful towards the Empress Dowager. Endured the occasional harassment from Nanny Yang without complaint, and even responded to the Emperor's occasional concern with a smile. I took advantage of my visits to the Empress Dowager's palace to pay respects and keep her company, paying closer attention to her casual conversations with the elderly consorts. I deliberately befriended some of the less influential but well-informed old eunuchs and palace maids, using gold and silver to exchange for information. An old eunuch who had served in the palace for nearly 30 years quietly told me, "Miss Shen, I vaguely heard about your mother's matter back then. It seems it wasn't an accident." Another palace maid who had once served in the emperor's presence said, "Before His Majesty ascended the throne, he competed with several other princes for the crown prince position. General Shun held some military power in the capital at that time, and his stance was unclear. Later, when His Majesty emerged victorious, General Shun completely pledged his allegiance. It seems that before you entered the palace, Miss Shun, His Majesty had a secret discussion with General Shun. Mother became an obstacle that had to be eliminated because she